Hi, it's Neil Sean here on your entertainment news with the one and only, the lovely Mr. Marc Sinden, and we talk all about his career and, of course, the career of his wonderful late father, Sir Donald Sinden. Remember, though, Marc?
If you miss it, you miss out.
Don't miss Marc today on your entertainment news. Marc, thank you so much for coming in and seeing me today. I'm really thrilled to meet you finally. I have to say, you've done so much in your own career. We know, of course, you're the son of. But tell me, was it always inevitable that you were going to become in the business? Is it?
No, far from it. I wanted to be a vet.
All right.
That was my great ambition. But I failed physics O-level massively, and you've got to have physics A-level to even start to be a vet.
It's a tough job, though, a vet, isn't it?
Yes, but I adored it. I used to do holiday work at London Zoo and work in the vet hospital there. So I was passionate about that. And my father was absolutely against my brother and I becoming actors.
Poor man.
I know. And then I got into Bristol Old Vic Theatre School at 17. I was the youngest they'd taken.
An amazing place to get into as well, you know.
Which meant that I chickened out of my final year of A-levels. And I phoned Dad up and said, look, I've got in. And he went, oh, okay.
He was just kind of very cool about it.
Yeah, he was cool about it. I was then expelled from Bristol after 2 years, principally because I discovered women in a rather large way.
Right.
I'd come from a single-sex boarding school. So I didn't do my third year. And I had to phone Dad up again and say, guess what, I've been expelled. And he said, oh dear, what for? And I said, well, women. He said, oh, I was kicked out of Webber Douglas for that. So
Which was another great, it still is a great acting school, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But then, funnily enough, I stopped. I became a jeweler for 7 years.
Wow.
And then...
What was the reasoning behind that? Did you just think,
I wanted to make sure I
this?
wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure. I had a shop in Hampstead and thoroughly enjoyed it. But then suddenly went, no, I want to go back to acting. And I said to my wife, because I was married by then, I said, can we do it? She went, yes. And so I started in Weekly Rep as an acting ASM in Weekly Rep.
Assistant stage manager, dear boy.
That's
For those
right.
that don't know.
An acting assistant stage manager in Weekly Rep, which is about the lowest of the low.
A great training ground, though.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I did 21 shows in 19 weeks. Fantastic training.
What a memory, though, Marc. You know, to keep remembering what play you're in and stuff.
Sometimes you didn't.
It must have been hilarious. Though. What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. You know, especially when you were doing 2 Agatha Christie's back to back.
Yeah.
Then they got very confused. And there was a line in the verdict. I remember that. We had to cut it because it was impossible to say. The line was, this is the chair that Schmidt sat on when he was shot.
I know what's coming.
No one could get through it. So we used to cut that.
You would, wouldn't you? You'd be a
Yes.
little worried about
Yes.
that. You know, you think, oh, God.
And you can see the line coming, going, no, it's going to be disaster. So
Yeah.
skip over that.
Now, am I correct in thinking, did I see you when I was younger, not too younger, but in Crossroads?
Yes.
Now, I know people mock Crossroads, but to be in Crossroads at that time, phenomenal. I mean, the ratings, the millions that watched every night.
Extraordinary.
Were you quite intimidated by that in the sense of that Noel Gordon was this, you know, megastar, wasn't she, in that period?
But my brother was also in it.
I remember. He was the reason why I went into hotels, because he made it look so easy.
That's right.
I thought, oh, he just leans across the desk, chats a bit, looks all right to me. I think I'll work in hotels.
Absolutely. No, I was the lusty dentist who was seducing people in the motel. It was terrible. You know, the sets creaked and wobbled when you shut a door, and things collapsed, and there were no such things as retakes.
Did you find that funny though, Matt, being on there, you know, going there? Because I was lucky enough to interview Sir David Jason, who also the form to be in Crossroads, and he said, I thought it was rather funny, he said, on his first day he arrived there, and there was this empty chair, you know, which was for the Queen, of course, Noel Gordon. Yeah. And apparently somebody rather crudely said, oh, just sit there, you know, because she arrived in the dressing room or the green room. I said, oh, it's all right, you can sit in my chair for the moment, you know. And everybody looked as if they'd stitched him up, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder what that was like with that sort of power there, you know.
She did believe it.
Yeah.
But there were wonderful technical things that, because I'm sure you know what I mean by a camera trap.
Oh, yeah.
But when a set is built and it's not wide enough for two cameras to get in, because in those days, unlike what you've got here, they had what we used to call Daleks.
Yeah,
you know,
they were.
Big,
they were
heavy,
like Daleks, weren't they? Yeah.
Big, heavy things.
Yeah.
And I was doing the Crossroads version of a bed scene. I'm on one of the motel beds with this girl, and I could see these two cameras out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, they're coming at us, but there's no way they're going to get through that gap. And sure enough, they went boing, and I thought, we'll have to go again.
Yeah.
No.
Just carry on.
And I watched it 2 nights later when it went out. Sure enough, boing, you know.
That's the beauty of it, though. But it's a learning again, isn't it? Because, you know, I think when you are in something as successful as that, however short it may be, the public love it.
Yeah.
It's only the critics that mock it.
Absolutely.
But if the public love what you're doing, who cares?
The figures. If you got those figures nowadays, you'd be off the wall.
Incredible. Yeah. And so what was your first break in the world of acting? You know, what would, apart from, you know, you've gone and you've been into Bristol and you've done that, you've come out and you've thought, right, okay, what was your sort of first moment when you think, actually, I might get a career in this now? Yes.
Oh, what a very good question. I went to Salisbury Playhouse and I got my first lead there. And I think that's what did it.
Yeah.
I always had a little game that my wife and I used to play that if at the end of the year I hadn't made as much as I had as a jeweller, I was going to give up. And that's
a bit of a spur on, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's what I'd always gone by.
Yeah.
And
it's a good thing, that though. Man.
Yeah, you know, just to. And by the end of the second year, I'd equalled it.
And then thought,
maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
And then getting my first West End, that was wonderful but daunting. Yeah. It was an Alan Bennett play.
Oh, I love Alan Bennett.
Called Enjoy.
Yeah.
And directed by Olivier, with Joan Plowright.
Gosh.
I mean.
And you're young, so.
I was young. This is my first West End.
I was lucky enough to once casually meet Sir Laurence Olivier, and he oozed star power, as they say. You know, he was in Leeds, and he was doing something at Castle Howard. You know, the Brideshead thing. And he had the gloves and the cane. It was every theatrical night you could imagine.
Yeah.
But you kind of thought, ooh, you know, a bit intimidating. So as an actor, it must have been terrifying.
Well, I remember he was coming up on stage at one point during rehearsals, and Colin Welland, who was in it,
lovely actor,
wonderful,
suddenly
said to me, "Do you realise that 3/4 of our Shakespearean knowledge is based in one man? He was Henry V, he was Richard III, he was Othello, you know, and you just go, wow, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
And the awful thing was he was rather inclined to act out what he wanted, which was no bloody help at all, because, you know, he'd do it and you go, okay, well, I'll see you then.
Must have been. That's what I mean. The lovely Thora Herder was also looking up to me. She was in The Entertainer with him, and she said, "Oh, I didn't put up with any of that nonsense, love. You know, just so down to earth." And you realise then that what a great actor he was, because he did mix the classics with, you know, appearing with Thora Herder, and then doing something, you know, strange in like Time the Musical or something, you know. Very
piece.
Clever.
Very clever of him to do.
So a very different. So really, into the deep end, as it were, when you first started. What did your father think to that? Was he must have been incredibly pleased, but, you know, nervous for you as a son? You know?
Nervous for me, but he wasn't wonderful at the compliment.
That's a good thing, I think.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But he would, and I'd say, well, did you enjoy it at all? And he said, yes, of course, but I'm trying to make it better for you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so he'd always give you notes and try
Yeah.
and...
And were there good notes, though, Mark? Did you think, actually, that is better?
It is better. Yeah, that was what was so bloody annoying.
Yeah.
You know, the notes were very, very
Yeah.
good.
I think when you're young, you just kind of want that. You don't really want notes and that. You want praise. And now when you look back and you think, what a clever man to pick out the problems that I need to fix.
Yes.
He's kind of managing your career, if you like. Yeah.
I mean, there were moments when certainly he was proud. I was the first of the family to go to the National Theatre. Wow. And he was really cock-a-hoop about that.
Yeah.
And then when I was running the Mermaid Theatre, just down the river from here, he was awfully proud of that.
Was that nerve-wracking to run the theatre, though?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, you're an actor, and being an actor, you're kind of devoid of all responsibility, apart from hitting it at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know? So when you have to run it, you have to think, well, many people come in, we've got the electric bill coming, you know, just all of those things. And I don't think people understand that.
No,
you know?
it's a very, very different side to the business, with many different aspects to it.
Yeah.
And the really good artistic directors stand out. Sadly, only last week we lost probably one of the greatest, Jamie Bamber, who ran Guildford, the Yvonne Arnaud of Guildford. And he very sadly and very suddenly died. And he was an incredible artistic director. Knew everyone, knew everything, knew every part of the theatre.
Which is what you need.
Chose the plays brilliantly. That's one of the arts, is knowing what's going to work for your audience.
Well, they're all going to look at you when they say, we never wanted to do with the caretaker. You know? You get it.
Totally.
I have to ask this random question as well, which came because you've got extensive notes. And this is a lovely story, actually. You were in the Na 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 piece with the Beatles. Is that correct?
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to imagine now to the younger generation, but the Beatles are a phenomenon at this point. By the time
you realise it's 50 years ago this year?
It can't be. But it's weird, isn't it, to think about that?
Just so people understand what you mean, it's the Na Na chorus at the end of Hey Jude.
Oh, yeah.
And my brother and I were part of that chorus.
Did you realise how important it was? Or
No.
are they still a pop group to you at this point? Do you know what I mean?
It was the Beatles.
Yeah.
Of course we understood.
Yeah.
It was very funny. It all started that the father of a school friend worked for the Beatles, for Apple.
Yeah.
And during was it half term? Can't remember, or holidays. He suddenly said, look, you doing anything on Wednesday? No. Well, come along with us.
Come
okay,
along.
fine. Didn't know what to.
Yeah.
And we went to Twickenham Studios, and we're standing in a big room, all looking around like this, going, what's happening? And suddenly George Martin walked in and said, hello, thank you for coming.
He's such a nice man, George. So polite.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. We've got a band here, and they're doing a record, and there's a chorus. We want to record the chorus, and we'll be filming it at the same time. Okay. Could you all sign these waivers? Uh-huh.
That old chestnut, isn't it?
Yeah. Should have thought about that one. And so we all did. And they went off, collected everything, went off. We stood around again. And the doors opened, and in walked the Beatles. And now it was the days of screaming.
Yeah.
Complete silence. We all just went, is it really them?
Is it them? Yeah.
And they walked, and they came round introducing themselves.
Well, like, you didn't know who they were.
As though we didn't. Hello, I'm God.
Yeah.
And we're going, oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do the song, and filming it and recording it, we did 11 minutes for the song.
That's a remix now, Mark.
We did it 16 times. So I have to say, it is the only Beatles song that I absolutely loathe. And when it starts, I go, oh, not that
again.
damn thing again. And there was a point, I have to hold my hands up, I did say, have you got anything else? And John said, yeah, and he played something, which actually turned out to be back in the USSR.
Wow.
But played a bit of that.
How brave of you to, because, you know, when you're faced with those sort of people, we've all been there,
We were
you're thinking,
bored out of our brains.
dare I say anything
Yeah.
here? You know, like, doesn't matter who you are, I'm bored now.
Yeah, now I'm bored. But suddenly it's a bit of history.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone believed it because it was the days before videos.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was filmed.
You know it's filmed, but that's what I mean. Then people go, well, I've never seen it.
Exactly,
So
because it went out
today.
at the
Yeah.
time. Michael Lindsay
Yeah.
Hogg directed it. And it went out at the time, but it wasn't available on video.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the Beatles compilation came out, and there it was on the DVD. Wow. And I was able to say, actually, yes, that is me.
Wow.
And
Nice though, what a memory.
I get a lot
on
of
film.
close-ups in it. It's very
Yeah.
strange. If you watch it, there's quite a lot of close-ups.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful memory. I mean, I've obviously been looking into your career, looking into your father's career, and there was this lovely film, I don't know if you've seen it, of your father, taken by Pathé News at home, and I think late 50s. And he's got all this theatrical memorabilia.
cleaning it.
Yeah, he's
Yes.
cleaning it, yeah. And like your mum, a typical mum, it looks a bit like, oh, you know, like,
Yeah.
please, you're getting all that stuff out. I've cleaned the table, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise, was he a big collector of things like that then? He had
Huge.
some massive stuff, didn't he?
Huge.
Wow.
Theatricalia.
Yeah.
And his collection started the British Theatre Museum.
Wow.
At not Lambeth Palace, it's down the road. Leighton House.
Yeah.
At Leighton House. And that then moved to the Flower Market in Covent Garden. And then sadly, for political reasons, it shut.
Yeah,
And now the
I went to it
V&A
though. I thought it was
now
brilliant.
the V&A
Yeah.
run it. But he had a huge collection. Other people called it junk.
Yeah.
But, you know, to actually have Sir Martin Harvey's top hat and Irving's wig stand,
I thought that was fascinating.
you know,
Why would you want to?
exactly, meant nothing to anyone outside
Yeah.
the business, but
Yeah.
someone in the business. you go,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I mean, because it is such a. I think those films are such a lovely snapshot because I think it's your brother's in it. He looks a little bit bored, you know,
Yep,
even though your dad's going, look, these are, you know, Edmund Kean's shoes or
That's
whatever.
right.
You know, like, he's like, oh, really? You know?
I remember that day very well that Pathé filmed it because I was as sick as a dog.
Oh, wow.
And every so often I had to go off, throw up, and come back again. But we had to perform.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I'm afraid that was part of being a film star's child.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine this now, but your father was an incredible film star because, I hate the word film star, actually, he's a film actor, but, you know, because he was an actor and not a film star as well. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
was the combination of two. And he was so, in all of those films that everybody remembers, that we all love to watch time and time and time again. Did he realise, you know, what a lucky career he'd had, what life, was he very, you know, because...
Oh yes, when you get given a 7-year contract by rank.
Yeah.
You know, his first film was The Cruel Sea.
I mean, massive
And he got
film,
second
isn't
billing.
it? Yeah, massive.
Opposite Jack Hawkins.
Yeah.
That was for Ealing.
Yeah.
And then as a result of that, he got a 7-year contract from rank.
Yeah.
You go, oh wow.
Yeah.
You know, and this is where I slightly disagree with you because they were built
Yeah.
as film stars.
But yeah,
They
I mean,
were
they're made
made
to be,
into
yeah.
stars.
Because you read about that rather dubious thing, I think, of the rank charm school for the
Yes.
girls,
Yeah.
which looks horrendous for today. You wouldn't get anybody to agree to that now, though, would you?
Not
to be
now.
trained in the way that they
now.
were.
But you can tell. You look
yeah.
at Joan Collins.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
she went through it. And she knows how to dress and turn
Yeah.
out.
You never see a bad picture of Joan because she's always aware where the camera might be.
Totally,
And I think that's very clever, actually, you know.
And I love things like talking pictures.
Yeah.
Where you look back at
Yeah.
those fabulous
Yeah.
40s and 50s films. And people complain about the accent of the villain or the accent of the toff. I love it.
Well, as we were just talking before we came to air, I watched a brilliant film of your father's, Eyewitness, and we were both saying I'd never seen him play a baddie before.
No.
And first of all, I thought he was so good in the part, I didn't recognise him because he's the baddie. You know, you expect him to be rather stiff upper lip, and, you know, and I thought, I'm sure that's not, you know, and then you start to look. And he was quite, it had a very menacing tone.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't go down this path a bit more, really.
Yeah.
It was quite dark film. I suppose quite shocking of its era. Because, the way that he could have, we want to give the plot away, but he was trying to murder somebody in a hospital, and you're thinking, that goes on today, but in those times, that was a little bit, and they'd bank robbed a cinema, taking the money and all this sort of stuff. And he was just so good at, drawing you in.
Yeah.
And
it was the only heavy he played.
Yeah, but he literally acted everybody, I'm not just saying this because you hear him out, but he acted everybody off the screen. When he was on it, you were just watching him, You're like,
but I'll tell you an interesting thing. If you watch those films, the Donald Sinden voice wasn't there.
No, he was quite Cockney-ish, I think.
Well, no. In those early films, his voice was higher.
Yeah.
It was only when he went to the Royal Shakespeare Company that he lowered it. It became the Donald Sinden voice we now know, because he thought he needed more gravitas.
Oh, I see.
And if you watch those rank films, his voice is about half an octave higher.
Yeah. But still, you can still see how he's acting. So I mean, when the guy in this particular film, when he turns on the guy, it's brilliant. Because you don't see it coming. And I thought that is, if I was a young actor, I'd be watching things like this.
Yeah.
To see how to project that image, you know what I mean, onto people. I mean, again, what I found fascinating, I was lucky enough once to meet your father very briefly, and he was so nice to me. And it was in a garden party of all places, somewhere in Soho. And when you ramble into these things, and I said to him, "What's going on here?" And he said, "I've got no idea," which I thought was marvellous, And I said, "Do you mind if I start with you?" And there was somebody, it was like a bit of a Dick Emery vicar party, Somebody was serving some teas, and there were cakes, and I think he was there to open something, but I don't think he knew, I mean? And I thought, oh, okay, and then, you kind of like, it's not often you get starstruck, but you meet something like that, and you think, that's, it was in the 90s, it must have been, so people didn't have cameras then, to be able to take quick pictures and stuff, And I just remember ringing him and saying, "You'll never guess who I met today," And I just thought he was so, that was part of his appeal, I think. He was so warm to everybody and friendly. He knew the value of his public, and he knew that, that the public were his payment, if you like, for theatre, for films, whatever. I have to ask you as well about one of my favourite things he appeared in. I loved it. Two's Company.
Yes.
Did he love it? Because I thought he was brilliant in it.
Yes, there was slight problems that are now well known with Stritch. She had a bit of a drinking problem.
Oh.
So series 1 was virtually ad lib. They sort of made it up as they went along.
I think you can see that with your dad. He's looking as if what's coming.
Yeah. And then she went dry, and series 2 and 3 were a lot better.
Yeah.
But series 1, she had a bit of a problem.
But what a good concept. I mean, it was loved in America as well as here, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. No,
really?
Because they sold the concept to America, and Peter Cook did it, and they reversed the idea. In England, it was a stuck-up butler with an American, and what they did in America was a stuck-up American with an off-the-wall butler.
Yeah.
And it didn't actually last its first series.
Really?
They pulled it after a few episodes.
But that,
Which is why it's never been shown in America, because the concept was shown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting when you look at the comments, underneath all of these things, that lots of Americans love it.
Yeah.
You can see we love this show, blah, blah. And I was thinking, why would you change the concept? That's a winning concept.
I know.
Why would you do that?
I know.
Because it's him and they play each other beautifully.
That was the playoff.
Yeah. You could see that. I love the way that, as you say, you can see your father ad-libbing certain things and trying to give her the line to get back on track,
Well, you have to remember, at the same time as he was filming that, he was also doing Othello and Much Ado About Nothing at the Aldwych.
Wow. Contrasting work, though. Man.
Yeah.
Very contrasting.
And he used to walk over the Waterloo Bridge to London Weekend.
Yeah.
On the Sunday, and film that, and then go back, fall asleep in a hotel, and then get up and go to the theatre
Was he not? Would he? Well, how did he pick work then? Because he has such a diverse mix of work. I mean, my generation, I'm sure your generation, I remember him brilliantly in, and I loved it. Never the Twain.
Yeah.
I thought it was just so funny. They both were very well cast. It worked very well. Some people might say, "Oh, it's cheesy comedy." It's funny. End of it. It's funny.
It went on for 11 years.
Yeah. I didn't realise it had gone on that long.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I remember it, and I thought, again, I always say this to people, what's interesting with hit shows like that, same with Two's Company, it had a very distinctive intro music. So you knew if you were in another room, oh, it's starting.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you'd go in, we don't have that so much now. But I think, when you look at that, and we all knew what a great actor Sir Donald was, but, I think people were slightly shocked when he got into comedy. But why should he be? Because he'd been a rep actor. So why would he do that?
And not only that, he'd done a number of highly successul farces.
Yeah.
In the West
I've seen him in a few, the vaudeville and things like that. Yeah.
And he got a couple of awards for the farces he did. So he was known as being able to do the comic roles as well.
Yeah.
So, in those days, you were able to plan a career.
Yeah, I guess
more
so.
than you can now.
Yeah. And because I want to ask some questions over yourself, but I want to ask the question of when he became, knighted, Sir Donald. What is that like, Mark? When you get that letter through and your family find it must be incredible.
He didn't tell us.
He didn't tell.
Didn't tell us, and we didn't know. He hand delivered the reply to number 10.
Oh, how nice!
Just to make damn sure they got it.
They can't do the same, actually. Yeah.
And then a few days before the New Year's honours were announced, he took the family to the Garrick Club for lunch and told us then. And it was extraordinary.
Yeah.
And my brother and I both went, "Is it hereditary?"
Typical actors.
Yes,
can we get that, Bill?
Yeah, can we get that? Yes, we'll take that over.
He must have been incredibly proud when he got it, though. I mean,
huge.
Because for him, when you start out as an actor, you don't know the path you're going to go down.
No.
But to be recognised like that, and there's
He
not
got
that
the
many.
C.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then getting the knighthood was absolutely thrilling.
Wow. And can I ask the question? The spitting image thing. Did he like that? Did he find that funny, or did he not find that?
That hurt him dreadfully.
I was going to say, I thought it was, for me personally, I didn't really get it. I understood. I think when you're doing comedy like that, it's very easy to pick on what I call national treasures. It's like, it'd be like saying Judi Dench always plays Queens. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you just keep going. Why would you do that? Because the public, I think they get it wrong when they think, but the public like these people.
Yeah.
You can only really do that
But
with
he
politicians.
used to be asked. He used to be asked if he did his own voice.
Yeah.
And there were times, I have to admit, that he was nearly reduced to tears.
Oh, what a thing! Yeah.
He just said, "I don't know what I've done wrong.
Yeah.
Why are they getting at me?"
Yeah.
Because it was rubbish.
Do you know,
it wasn't based. If it's based on a little bit of truth, and they've expanded it, but he wasn't. I don't know how we get round this on this, but he wasn't arse licking.
Oh no!
Never did. Never asked for the knighthood. Wasn't sucking up to people. And yet Spitting Image made out that he was.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I worked for a record label, Pete Waterman, Stockake and Waterman, and they did some puppets of them, mocking their process of getting hits,
Yeah.
And that was very damaging in a way, because it was almost saying anybody could do this.
Yeah.
But of course, if you could do it, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
That's my motto, And it did kind of affect the business a bit, because people were like, oh, it's the same record with different voices.
And also, it was the same very bitter people who wrote it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
there's always a jealousy factor, though, isn't there? That's what I believe.
Totally.
I mean, moving on to nicer things, your career then, because you've had a lovely career yourself. What have you enjoyed the most so far? Or are you still, is the best yet to come, as we say?
Oh, I hope the best is yet to come. I'm now concentrating on film producing.
Is that hard, Mark? I would imagine it is. Is it hard? I was going to say.
It's very hard.
Because it's quite.
Nowadays, trying to find the money.
Yeah.
But my wife is a stunning film producer. I should, to be accurate, say my ex-wife. but we've been divorced for 20 years now, but we work together. It's a very strange relationship.
Good,
we
well, she'll know you and you'll know her, so it kind of works in then.
So we work together. And she's a stunning film producer, done a number of excellent films. But we're working together. We've got 2 documentaries and a feature we're working on for this year.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And then we did the first 10 of a 40-part series for Sky Arts called Great West End Theatres.
Which yes, I know. Carry on, sir. No, yeah, brilliant.
We've actually done 14. We released 10, got 4 to be finished, and then another 20 to go. Yeah. But that's a question.
But it's a brilliant concept, isn't it? Because we all like to. I think the beauty thing about that idea, the format and everything, is we've all been in.
Yeah.
Or we've been lucky enough to be in at least some of them, you know. But when you get to peek around, that's when you get really excited because you think, oh, it's not that big back here.
Well, the amount of people who don't look up.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And what I wanted people to do is to go into a theatre and sit in their seat and look up at the ceiling and go, good God, look at that chandelier. Never noticed that before.
Yeah. I do though, Mark, because you know, like when we were in the Apollo and the Lyric and stuff, and you know, the smaller little intimate venues, and you look and you think, how did they get in there and do that? You know, and do you remember a few years ago when the plaster fell off of the theatre? And I was thinking to myself 2 things, because we're probably a bit nutty about theatres like this, and I thought, I wonder whether that's the first time it's ever fallen off since the person stuck it up. You know what I mean? And then you think, that's a piece of history in a way, falling off, you know? Yeah. But I always worry about when you go to the theatre, particularly in modern days now, and you have these musicals with a thumping sound going through, and you think, they're not built for that. They're built for plays and like musicals, operettas and stuff. And you can feel a vibration through your chair thinking, I hope these are all right.
Yes, quite. Yeah, we'll find out.
So, which theatres did you like the most that you would when you went behind the scenes? Which was the one for you?
I love the Prince of Wales because I adore our new Art Deco.
Yeah, and it is a lovely tower, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful. The Haymarket is the best.
Yeah,
it's the most perfect theatre. Drury Lane was so impressive.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it?
Huge,
behind,
absolutely huge. But when we did Her Majesty's, and we discovered a thunder roll, I don't know if you know what a thunder roll is. Yeah. So it's a trough like that goes down the wall, and they literally roll a cannonball down it, and it sounds like thunder.
Yeah.
And Beerbohm Tree, being very clever, attached it to the outside wall so that it vibrated around all the walls. So when they set it off, you'd go, my God, what's that?
Stereo in 1800s.
Totally, yeah. And they hadn't discovered it.
Wow.
And we moved something, and sure enough, there was this original thunder roll. And we actually discovered it there. That was very exciting, because the only one we knew that was in place was in the Old Vic in Bristol.
Yeah.
And they have one in place in the roof there.
Yeah.
Which is pretty frightening.
I was going to say, it's incredible, isn't it? When you look at these theatres, they've been around so long, and they're all steeped in history, and I think we love that. You know, the fact that, you know, I always found it amazing, for instance, like one of the lovely things I remember when we sadly lost your father was how they, I was in the West End at the time, and they dimmed the lights. What a lovely thing. What a beautiful thing to do for an actor, you know what I mean? Yeah. The respect is just there in that moment.
He'd have been so proud.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's lovely.
Because that's rarely done.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I think the actors of your father's generation, like when I look at, you know, as you say, the Gielguds and you know, the Oliviers and people like that. And then also you forget about the great playwrights that were around, the Rattigans and that, you know, because we only live in our moment, don't we? But you think, I was talking to somebody a while ago and they were telling me all about the wonderful theatrical producer, Binky Beaumont. Oh, yes. And how he had this, he lived at the top of the globe, didn't he?
That's right.
Not lived, but he had his office there. Yep. And he would peer across his empire, you know. And when you look, and I'm sure, you know, you're like me, Mark, I'm fascinated by this. I thought, yes, but it kind of only lasted 10 years for him in the sense of he was successful, but his heyday was that to that, you know. And now there's Lloyd Webber, for instance. Do you know what I mean? They all have that moment where they're
But
big,
the thing
you know?
that Binky was amazing about, I mean, to be accurate, it was 30 years.
Oh yeah, massive. But you know what I mean, in the moment
period.
of it,
True. But he also discovered Coward and Rattigan.
Yeah,
And, you know, he made stars.
Yeah.
But there's a lovely story of him going to a matinee of a show. And as occasionally happens at matinees, there was a bit of naughtiness going on, a bit of corpsing. And people were laughing on stage. And he was livid, incandescent.
I could
with
imagine,
rage.
yeah.
And he stormed round afterwards and said to the company manager, "Gather the cast on stage."
And the boss is here, yeah.
God, and they stood there. There was the great Pinky Beaumont. And he said, "I've been watching this show, and I have never been so appalled at the unprofessionalism that I watched. And I'm going to keep my eye on this show. And if ever I see this happen again, I will pull the show overnight." Do you understand?
You'd be petrified, wouldn't you?
And he started to walk off, and the company manager said, "Mr. Beaumont, this isn't one of your productions."
Oh. Can you imagine? And it's lovely the way you let him do it as well.
Yes, because if it's on in the West End, it must be one of mine.
Must be one of mine, yeah. Oh, isn't that marvellous? I have to ask as well, Mark, was it, when you look back at, say, your father's career, was there one role that he really enjoyed the most? Because we've seen him in so many. I mean, as you say, I saw him in some farces with for Ray Cooney, I think, and things like that. And of course, that's what I remember seeing him in. But
I think the one he enjoyed the most, well, there were two: The Relapse and London Assurance.
Wow.
And he adored those because he sort of created them.
Yeah.
And they hadn't been done for so long, and he revived them, and were both massive hits.
Oh, right. So it's always a nice when they're
Yeah,
when you like doing them and it's a hit, because it's awful if you love it and it's not.
Yeah.
And you think, I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. And when you became older, and he became older, and you went into the business, did he still give you lots of advice, even though you probably didn't want it?
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, you
no,
need
it
to
didn't
do
stop.
this,
Didn't stop.
Yeah.
And infuriatingly, he was right most of the time.
So apart from your which I love, your wonderful series about West End theatres, and you're working on your films, what's after that? Are you going to go? Would you ever return to acting yourself, do you think?
Oh yes.
You're a great voiceover man, aren't you? I believe, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I keep my hand in.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing voiceovers.
Well, you're made for it, though, aren't you? I mean, you've got such a rich voice. It's beautiful. Yeah.
But acting, I do a couple of films a year.
Yeah.
Which is nice. I've just finished one called Property of the State, which is very shocking, true story, and terribly shocking. I play a paedophile priest.
Oh, right. Very modern day.
Very modern day, and a true story,
Wow,
which is really horrific.
Is that what appeals to you? When you get a script, what do you look for? Because, again, you were talking about your father, how they built stars.
Sure.
And in a lot of ways, when the studios ran, the actor, as it were, the actor was presented with a role that the studio boss, whether it be J. Arthur or Zanuck or whoever,
you will do this.
Yeah. And as an actor, you must think, well, that's not really me, but you're on a payroll. So
I must say the first thing I look at is where.
Yeah.
I do love to travel.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if we had a great location for you, we could hire you. If you
Yes.
think, it's the Bahamas, Mark, but, don't worry.
Absolutely. Did a wonderful film in Sierra Leone. Had a lovely time out there. And I did a film produced by Saddam Hussein.
Wow.
Out
Not
in
many people
Baghdad.
can say that,
Nope.
can they? Wow. And what was that like?
Out in Baghdad with Oliver Reed.
What a
And
character.
it was during the Iran-Iraq War.
Yeah.
So Saddam was on our side at that point.
Yeah.
It was before the two Gulf Wars. Met him at supper. Baghdad was so beautiful. Such a beautiful city.
Because we only see one side of it here, don't we?
Well, we don't see anything now.
The
It's all
negative
completely
side,
bombed.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Lovely place. Very, very sad what's happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Mark? There was correct me if I'm wrong here, but did I see you pop up on Daniel Aro's "This Is Your Life" with your father? And you were telling a story about how you were running across the theatre
Oh, good
in
God,
full
yes.
makeup. Do you remember? And I found this hilarious because your
That's
dad was sort of
right.
looking as if, what? You know, like, and it
Good
was a
Lord, I've forgotten about that.
very funny story. I can't totally remember it, but it was.
I was doing...
He did your makeup, I think.
He did. I was doing School for Scandal at the Duke of York's. And it was the first night, and the one thing I hadn't thought of was the makeup. I thought, oh my God. Unfortunately, Charles Surface isn't on till Act 2.
Yes.
So I phoned Danny, who was an old family friend, and he was at the Prince of Wales.
Yeah.
I said, help, what do I do? And he said, well, come over. So I put a Mac on, and
Like you do.
I went over to what's it called, Leicester Square, walked over Leicester Square to his theatre. And he sat me in his dentist chair, which he used to have, and did the most fantastic job.
It's only Danny LaRue, of course.
As only he could. Of course, I've got a long wig on, thigh boots, you know, I mean...
Probably fitting in quite nicely in
full
Soho,
costume, having to walk back across Leicester Square in full slap. I'd have made a lot of money if I had more time. So, yes, that's right. No, he did the makeup.
You look
for
at
me.
shows like that again, and you know it's lovely to see you with your father in that. You can see there's a lovely bond there. You know, you know what I mean. It's so, and he's looking at more or less. He can't believe you're telling the story on national TV. Like what? You
That's
know?
right.
Like, think of the family heirlooms. Boy,
I know.
you know?
I don't think he knew that it had happened.
And Danny LaRue again. It's hard to imagine for those who are younger. A mega star. I mean, just you know, and very clever. I thought as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, as a
Yeah.
person. You know, and you sort of
Danny was extraordinary.
yeah. I mean.
Extraordinary.
Of all the people that you've met, who were the most influential for you then as an actor? Who did you, apart from your father, was there one person that you met through his friendship that, you know, his friends and thought, he's really, I want to be like, if I could be like somebody, it'd be like that. Was there anything like that?
Oh dear, no one's ever asked me that. I mean, Olivier, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, when he's directing your first play, you
Yeah.
take a lot of notes. My wife said, write down everything he says.
Wise
You
words.
know, which I did.
Yeah.
No, the truth is Ellen Terry said it best of all, to act, you must steal the words, steal the thoughts, and convey the stolen treasure to others with great art.
Wow.
You steal bits and pieces of people,
Yeah.
quite honestly. You know,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
a
if
bit
you
of
got-
that, a bit
yeah.
of that. And you use little bits and pieces.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're so fortunate in many respects that you worked, you know, in the period when there were still greats.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I don't mean that in a rude way, but it's
No,
you know,
you're
they're just
right.
greats.
Yeah.
And what you're just saying there is so interesting from an actor's point of view because there's this thing where, you know, you've been directed by Olivier, but you've been in Crossroads, so there's no snob because you're an actor.
Yeah.
You know, you go into
Yeah.
what's paying the bills, what you fancy doing, all that sort of stuff. I sort of think it's very difficult now. Is there any actor that you see in this generation that you think, yeah, they've got it? You know what I mean? I don't. For me, there's a guy called, I think he's called Marc Strong. He's a very
Yes.
good actor.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
come away and think everything he's in, he's been very good at.
Yeah.
So obviously he makes very clever choices. You know, but I don't know many others. Is there
No,
somebody?
Mark Rylance.
Yeah.
You know, there are people out there who are outstanding. But it's a different time.
Yeah.
Different time.
And is it harder now as an actor, do you think, to get going? Because, I mean, we know there's no studio system as such, but there's no opportunities as such, is there?
No, I think it's much harder now.
Yeah.
I think I think with what one of the worst things is so-called profit share, which basically means you're not going to get paid.
You're working for nothing.
Yeah. And it's unfair.
Yeah.
It really is.
Because it is a
unfair.
living, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
It is a living for
Yeah.
you know.
It's a business we call show.
Yeah.
You know,
I think people forget that in show business, don't you, Mark? Where they say it is show and business, and business is the longer word in this. And I think when they say to you, I mean, I was talking to somebody recently who told me that there were a variety turn in the 50s and 60s, and they said they charged every time they opened a fete, and this person, you know, would all go to endless fetes every weekend because he could charge.
Sure.
And I thought, yes, but he's kind of giving his time, so you know, and he's famous, so he's drawing a crowd in for you. why would he give it? Nowadays, it's very difficult because I think as an actor, I think if you can't get a mainstream ITV drama, and I think it's also cast on whether you are, dare I say, Instagram friendly, social media friendly.
Totally.
You know, they look and go, well, like 45,000 people might watch you in this or whatever.
Exactly.
You know? I think it's way beyond.
And so-called celebrity.
Yeah,
know.
which,
I mean, you know, when you get the Kardashians, you just think, well, is there any bloody point in the business?
And they can command so many. I think what I find very strange is, I was talking to somebody a while ago and they said that they cast, the reason why I mentioned ITV dramas, they cast a lot of the things, or the younger actors, on their social media following, which I found incredible. I said, but surely it's based on acting. And he said, well, in the lesser roles, you know, we've got marketing, you know, so they post a picture on set and 50,000 people are aware of them filming.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I see, but I thought, this doesn't make sense to me, but that's probably the way show business is going.
It used to be based on talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, can I ask you, because I'd love to talk to you all day, but can I ask you, what would you think your father would think of how well his work has stood up? Because we see your father on TV so many times a year. You know, when you look back on his career, did he ever say to you, "Oh, it's been brilliant," or was he very self-critical? You know, and say, "Oh,
no, he used to say, I wish the contract had been different, that I got paid for repeats for the films, because he never did. You see, he got a flat fare, a flat fee."
And would they've all got that, Mark? Would they've all just been paid?
Yeah. If you were a contract star, you got your weekly.
But you'd never guess, I suppose, like, as I say, the brilliant film I saw, you'd never think when he was making it that this would be shown 50 years later, you know, on television,
I don't think they
have
had any concept that was going to happen.
It's in the moment.
I mean, obviously, things like Never the Twain, Two's Company, there were repeats for those. That's different. But the rank years, all those films he made, he never got paid for the repeats. And I think that rankled a little.
And did he see himself on telly going, I should be paid for this?
Yes, I'm just saying. You know, I mean, there was one time he was doing, he'd been asked to do a film version of Desert Island Discs, where 5 favourite scenes. Nice idea.
Quite a clever idea with the right people.
And he was doing the pilot, and he chose, and one of them was the first scene he filmed with Jack Hawkins. Not the first time he appears in the film, but the first scene he filmed. And they came back and said, I'm so sorry, we can't use that. And he said, why not? And he said, because rank want for 55,000.
Just for the scene?
He said, for 2 minutes? He said, yeah. And he said, why? He said, well, it's for the estate of the actors. And he went, well, hang on pain of not doing the programme, I want it.
Yeah.
So they buckled in and did it.
Wow.
And to this day, Doreen Hawkins, who's Jack's widow, and Dad never received a penny.
Wow.
So creative accountancy somewhere, that money disappeared.
That is show business, though, isn't it, Mark? Haven't we all been in
Plus
things
that
you know, you sit there, you know, I look back at things I've done and you think, how come I was the only one that never got paid for that?
Exactly.
You know, you read somebody else and say, well, I got that. Did you?
Yeah.
They told me they had no money.
I know.
Never mind. Listen, Mark said it's been really thrilling to talk to you. I'm so glad you popped in and seen me today. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much for asking.
A pleasure. Thank you.